maybe. I don't know when you would have learned this, but yeah, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay, so the main thing behind the Pythagorean theorem is it has to be a right triangle. What makes a triangle a right triangle? 90 degrees. Okay, so on a right triangle, doesn't matter like which direction it's facing, okay, if you go in the other ways, but you're going to have it 90 degrees down here, okay? This side is called the what? Hypotenuse. And hypotenuse is always the longest side of the right triangle. It is also opposite of where the right angle is at. Okay, so again, your drawings flip around. Okay, so the key thing on our Pythagorean theorem that we have, you're not writing it yet, is this is the one that really matters. Okay, because it's on the right side of the equation. The A and the B, it doesn't matter which one's the A, which one's the B, this is on the left side. Okay. So this one is always your C. This is always your hypotenuse. Okay. So it matters which one, knowing which one of those it is. Okay. So your drawing, so we're going down to where it says key skills. Okay. On the right hand side, you have a right triangle that's already drawn for you, and it has the right angle, and then there's A. Okay. So we're going to fill in where those two circles are at. Okay. So your drawing looks like this, and there's a right angle, and there's an A over there. Okay. And then you have a circle here, and then a circle here. Okay, so we're going to fill in two of the numbers. So this one up here, you're going to put 12. Okay, and then the hypotenuse is going to be 13. Okay, on the left-hand side, you have 3 blanks, and it says by the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, let's get this down. Everybody see that? So you've got the other legs going over the blanks. So it says by the Pythagorean theorem, and then you have a blank, it equals, and then a blank, a plus, and it equals. Okay, so up above in your vocab, you wrote the Pythagorean theorem, which is the a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay, and I just said what one really matters that's separated from the other two is the hypotenuse. So what is the hypotenuse that I'm drawing? 13. Okay, so you're going to put a 13 in that first blank, because that's the one that should be by itself. And the equation is this, which you have written up above. Okay, so, and it doesn't matter if it's on this side or this side, but it's by itself. Okay, so that's why we're writing that right there. Okay, now we need to square it. So you're going to write a little exponent next to it. Okay, we don't know this one, but we need to square it. Okay, what's our last number that's here? In our drawing. 12. Okay, and then we have 12. Okay, now again, these two could be flipped around anytime you're doing these equations. The A and the B are called the legs of the right triangle. We kind of worked with that when we were naming HL, remember when we were naming those sides. Those are just the legs, so those could be interchanged. It's the C that matters where it goes. Okay, so then you have the next line down, it says then. Okay, we have a line and equals a line, a plus, a line equals a line, and then an line equals, and then a line. Okay, so the first one that we're looking at is 13 squared. So 13 times 13. Calculators. Okay, so that first line is 169. We do not know this one yet, okay, because that's what we're solving for. So we're just going to bring this one down. So that's your next line that you're filling in. Okay, what is 12 squared? 144. So we've got the first fill in the blanks filled up. Okay, now we are going to solve for a squared. Okay, so on this side I'm going to put a squared. Okay, so to solve for a squared, what do I have to do with that to get this by itself? Yep, you're going to move it to the other side and subtract it for 169. So in your calculator, 169 minus 144. 25. Okay, so a squared equals 25. Okay, so now we're just solving for a. So opposite of square is to take the what? What's opposite of square? Square root. Okay, so we want to solve just for a. So in your calculator, we've been working with square roots, right? This is the square root or the radical, okay? in your calculator, whatever calculator you have, some of you have to put square root in first, others have to put the number in first, so I want you to try it to make sure you know how to work with your calculator. But you're taking the square root, which you know in our head, but calculator-wise, you need to be practicing this. Okay, what do you get? Square root of 25 is flat. Okay, so that's your last fill in the blank. Okay, simple. Hopefully that's something that you've been exposed to before. Okay, so next fill in the blank part, it says determine whether a triangle is a right, acute, or obtuse by using the Pythagorean inequality. So this is what you have, which is your third paragraph down vocab where you had the ifs. Okay, so you should have if c squared is equal to it, then that means it's a what type of triangle? Right. If the c squared is bigger, what type of triangle is it? Obtuse. Okay, so what and you'll start to memorize these, but it makes sense. Okay, so if we have this, and we're squaring a squared, it equals this. All of a sudden, if this line gets bigger, okay, and it pushes this out, so this line gets bigger, what is it going to do to that angle?
It's going to move it out.
Right, it's going to move it out more, right? So if this gets bigger, then that means that side has to come out. It's going to make that bigger, okay? So that makes an obtuse angle. If this gets smaller, okay, if this is getting smaller, then that means we have to move that in. So it's no longer a right triangle, it's going to make it acute, okay? So that's what they're looking at. Depending on what happens to your C, okay, that hypotenuse side, it's either going to make a right triangle, an obtuse triangle, because it's going to push the other side out, or it's going to make an acute triangle because it's going to get smaller and it pushes that side in, one of the legs in. Okay, so that's what those ifs are. Okay, so filling in the blank, if you're following along, it says classify the triangle that has the sides. Okay, so you have 3 blanks. We're going to fill those in. So 14, 20, 25. So it's the next fill in the blank. So it says classify the triangle that has the sides 14, 20, 25 as right, acute, obtuse. You're just following along to the next one. Classify the triangle that has the sides.
Oh,
Okay, so which one is my C of those numbers? 25, because it's always the bigger side. Okay, so your first fill in the blank, you're going to write 25 squared. What does 25 squared equal? 625. Okay, so that's your next blank. Okay, what were my other 2 sides, my A and my B? Okay, so we're going to put 20 first. So we're going to go 20 squared. And the other one was what? 14. So 14 squared. Okay, so you're going to go 20 squared, which whatever that number is, and 14 squared, whatever that number is, and then add those 2 together. Tell me what you get.
34.
No.
590. Oh, wait, add them together.
Square 20.
590.
Okay. Okay, that goes in your next line. Now, order of operations matters in this. You got to square them before you add them. Okay, we good? With our next line? Everybody got that cool? Okay, so the next part, or the last part, you have like 3 blanks. Okay, so we're comparing our answers that we just got. So our first answer was 25. And this answer was 596. Okay, they're not equal. First number is what in comparison to that second number? Bigger. Okay, and this was my C. Okay, so that would mean if the C is bigger, it was what type of triangle? Obtuse. Okay, so you're going to fill in obtuse. So the triangle is obtuse. Okay, number 1, I want you to try it. Okay, so you're going to have and you can write however you want to, but I just want you to find what C is and what B is on number 2. So I'm going to give you just a little bit. And then I'm going to practice 3 with you again, and you're going to try 4 and 5. So try number 1, find C. C squared C. And then number 2 as well. You may need more time on 1 and 2. Okay, what'd you get for 1?
34.
34. Do I need to do that one on the board? Do it on the board? Okay, so squaring 16. So if we square 16, let me just erase this. So if we square 16, we get 256. Okay. If you square 30, so 30 times 30, not 30 times 2, okay, that would give you 900. Okay, then you add those two together. Okay, and that gives you 1,156. Okay, but that gives me C squared, and I don't want C squared, I want just C. So to get rid of the squared, I need to take the square root of that. Okay, which gives you 34. Okay, what about number 2? 18. Okay, you may need to do that one. So same thing other than you're subtracting. It's like the one that we did up with us. We're good? Okay, so I'm going to do number 3 with you, and then you're going to try 4 and 5. So on number 3, which one is my, you're right, you can just say, is my C is 16. Okay, so I know I'm going to square 12. I'm going to square 14. And I'm going to square my 16. I just need to know which one is my C, because the other two, it does not match. Okay? So squaring 12 gives me 144. And then squaring 14 gives me 196. Okay? And then squaring 16 is 256. Okay? So we add these two together. If this side equals this side, then I would say it's a right triangle. Okay? If my C is smaller than what this is, okay, then that would make it acute. If it's bigger, then it would make it obtuse. Okay, so does it equal it? No. It's what on the left side? 340, right? So 340 is bigger than what my C is. So if my C is smaller, again, you can look up above on your if statements. If C is smaller, then it makes it acute. So you're going to write it. Okay, so you're trying 4 and 5. And they're in order of A, B, C. Okay, Lake, what'd you get for 4?
Right.
Okay. Very good. All right, triangle, do I need to do that one? Okay. Zavi, what'd you get for number 5?
Q.
Everybody else get a Q? Okay, so 25 squared. What'd you get for 25 squared?
I think I added it.
That's okay. What'd you get for 25 squared?
625.
Okay, so 625. And then what did you get? Well, 30 squared you had before. So 30 squared is 900. Okay, and then squaring your 40, 1600. Okay, add those two together. Right. Okay. 15. Okay, so if you're comparing this number to this number, this one's bigger, right?
Yeah.
So if the C is bigger, then that makes it.
Oh, yeah, I got that mixed up.
Okay, so that would make it what? Obtuse.
Sorry, I
Okay,
got that.
that's okay. So switch it to obtuse if you have something else. Okay, so now we're going to the algebra part. So that second page that you've got, you should have some room to be working on it below. We're not going to do this back part. This is when we used to have to write proofs and stuff. So you can even use that as scratch papers for this. So I'm going to do the first one with you, and then you're going to try 72, 73, 74, and 75. Okay? Because most of the time we don't have examples of the algebra ones when we're taking notes. I want to make sure we've got some. Okay, and it goes to the factoring, and yes, it's on tests. Okay, so the very first one, they have them in order. So it's the A, the B, and the C. Okay, so we're using the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, so the first one of the sides is x, okay, but we square it. The second side is x plus 7, okay, but we're going to square it. And then the third side, which is the long side, which would be the hypotenuse, is x plus 14, and we're going to square it. Okay, so we have it set up for a squared plus b squared equals c squared. We good so far? Okay, so now we got to use our algebra to simplify this down. Well, that's already squared, so I already know what that one's going to be. Okay. This means I have two of these parentheses. Looks like that. Okay, same thing here. This means I have two of these parentheses. For calculators, I mean, 7, you probably know what it is, but simplifying these down. Okay, so we need to do distributive property so we can start combining like terms. Okay, so x times x is going to give me x squared. This is going to give me 7x, and this is going to give me 7x. So I have a 7x and a 7x, so when I add those two, I'm going to get, okay, so 14x. And then 7 times 7 is going to give me 49. Okay, and then I'm just bringing this one down just because that one didn't have anything else, so we can happen to it again. Okay, now we need to do the same thing to the right side. So x times x is x squared. X times 14, and then 14 times x. So we have two 14x. So 14x and 14x would give me 28x. Okay, and then 14 times 14, 196, which we have on the other side. Like that. Okay, questions up to there, where any of those came from before we start moving, please. Okay, so factoring. We can't solve for x because we have an x squared. So we need to move everything to one side so it's equal to what? What? 0. We've been practicing this like on over a section. Okay, so I'm going to move all of these to the right side. So I'm going to subtract x squared. What I do to one side, I'm going to do the other side, which basically gets rid of one of the ones that are already on the other side. Okay, I need to subtract the 28x. And I need to move over the 196. So that all of this is equal to 0. Okay, so I still have a x squared. Okay, subtracting 28 and 14 gives me a negative 14x. And then subtracting 196 from 49 gives you a negative what? 147. Okay, so negative 147. Okay, so there's no common factors that we can take out of all three of those. We're going to go straight into our factoring, and I don't have to worry about the coefficient that's in front, like sometimes we do, so I can actually read backwards. So I'm looking for factors of 147 that subtract to give me 14. Okay, and remember, if you plug this into a calculator can, or you can use these factor sheets. Okay, so I'm looking for 147. First time I come across it is 21 and 7. Does that subtract to give me 14?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so 21 times 7 is the factors I'm going to use. So I'm going to have an x and an x. What are my signs going to be based on that? Different. One's a plus, one's a minus. Okay, so there's a rule that we learned. We take the larger number and put it behind the what?
Whichever one's shown, whichever is positive or negative.
Yes. So how do we find that out? We always put the larger number behind the sign of which one?
Positive.
Negative.
Where am I getting? It's the sign of which one in here?
The first one.
This is the first one. Second one. So whatever the sign of your second term is, and that's where you're going to put your larger number. So if this was a positive, then I would put it behind the positive, but it's not, okay? It's a negative, so that means the 21 goes behind the negative, and the 7 goes to this one. Okay, so we put the larger number behind the sign of your second term. Okay, which one am I going to use? The 7 or the 21? 21, right? Because we want to use the positive number. This becomes positive because when you have x minus 21 equals 0, and I say solve for x, and you move that over to the other side, right? It becomes a positive. This one would become a negative. So we don't want to use that one. So we're going to use 21. Okay, so they want us to find the side lengths of the triangles when you're solving for x. You have to plug it back into each one of them. So one of the sides is x. So what is one of our sides? 21. Okay. Then we plug it back into x plus 7. So you'll get 21 plus 7 is 28. Okay. And then the third side would be what? 35. Because you're going 21 plus 14. Okay. So if you were to check this on the test, this is a squared, this is b squared, it should equal what c squared is to know that you did these right. Okay. Because all of these are right triangles. We're not working with the cube or obtuse.
How do you get those numbers, 21, 28?
Because on your paper, it said one of the sides was x, the other side was x plus 7, and the third side was x plus 14. Okay, and you just solve for x. X was 21, so 21 is what x is. Then you have to go with 21 plus 7, which would make 28, and then 21 plus 14. You just plug it back into what's in the sides. So you'll have 3 answers on each one of those. Okay, so 21, 28, 35 is the answers for the 3 sides. Okay, so you're going to try 72, 73, 74, and 75, and I'm going to call on somebody different that I haven't called on, okay, to tell us the answers. When you are done with them, raise your hand, and I will bring you the reteach to get started on. Okay, there's none of these on the reteach. It's the other ones that we had on the notes. So these first, raise your hand, and then I'll come get them. Or we do the reteach.